I think Trump is doing well by rebuttaling, coming back with facts that are solidified, that hold true.
I think that Trump is lying, and it's what he does. A liar lies, and so as he continues to do that, it simply reinforces that he's not a person who should be president.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked that this is what President Biden looks like after 10 days of rest. Imagine what he's like on a day-to-day type basis. I think this evidence, and I think the American people are seeing this evening, is clear evidence that this man is not up to another 4 years.
Is his age a concern? Sure. At his age and also Trump's age, is he still? Yes, but I still believe in him. I still have confidence in him. He's still able to do the job.
I don't want to be disrespectful towards the elderly, but like Biden is, he slurs his words a lot. I just don't think he's fit to be a leader.
I think it's really hard for any reasonable human being to watch that and know that Mr. Biden is fit to be our president.
I think Donald Trump, I think he did well tonight. He kept his calm and his cool.
He was holding back quite a bit, and I wish he would have tore into him more. But, he's got to be polite.
Trump is a complete liar. Everything he says is just one lie after another. And he's never going to protect us as women. He's not going to protect minorities across the nation. And he's going to make things worse for us. He's going to put us into more wars.
This is hard to watch, to see someone lying to the American public time and time again. It's hard to watch. Biden is really looking out for women's rights.
There is no crime wave from immigrants coming into this country. It doesn't exist. President Trump, former President Trump, is only using those words to gin up a base that only wants to create a xenophobic, racist country.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me get this intro out of the way. If it sounds like I am in a somber mood, it is because that debate, to me, represented that this is not a good time for America. But we'll get into that. Hello and welcome to the Next 2.0, WQLN PBS NPR. Next, this show is produced by the Public's Voice Media. I'm your host, Marcus Atkinson. I have no guest host with me today. I'm riding solo. If you want to know more about Next 2.0, you can go to Facebook, like the page, leave your thoughts and opinions. My God, if there's not a subject for your thoughts and opinion, it is this one. And even the one that we're talking about secondarily. Leave your thoughts and opinion, but like the page on Facebook, follow us on Instagram at Next 2.0 Erie. There you can keep up with upcoming show promos, events, and clips about what's next for our communities and our democracy. Thank you so much for tuning in. And so there is a very popular show from back in the day. The show was called Good Times. And the matriarch of the show was a woman by the name of Florida Evans. And at the end of the run, this wonderful show, there's a scene where the husband, James Evans, dies. And Florida is in the kitchen. And it dawns on her in that minute that things are forever changed. And she slams down a dish, breaking it, of course. And she utters the words, damn, damn, damn. And it becomes a line that people utilize, at least in the black community, just to express their sincere hopelessness and disdain to a situation that puts them into that place. Ladies and gentlemen, I say this to you to say that I watched that debate last night, and 10 minutes into it, I was saying, damn, damn, damn. This was not pretty. This underscored why so many Americans are saying these are our options. These are our choices. Now, of course, as you listen to the opinions and the thoughts and feedback of Americans, both locally and abroad, in those sound bites, you heard a lot of what I'm sure that you're saying to yourselves. Obviously, pro-Trump people are elated. They're like, see, we told you that Joe Biden wasn't fit for the task. We told you that his age wasn't just a number. This is not an Aaliyah song. Age is more than just a number. He's not ready for everything that a president has to deal with because his faculties aren't all there. That's what they're saying. I told you so is what they're saying. And Democrats are just stuck on the fact that this man, that being former President Donald Trump, is just not fit to serve because, well, where do you begin with that thought process, right? For many reasons, he's just not the guy to do this job. And yet, it was a neck and neck dead heat pretty much leading into the debate. And so even the most staunch supporters of President Joe Biden are wringing their hands right now because this did not look good. I was hyped for President Biden. After the State of the Union, he comes in and people expected this caricature of himself, and he comes in and he kicks ass and takes names, and I'm like, get him, Joe, get him. And the rest of America, I believe, at least those that support President Biden, were on that page as well. And then the Republicans go on the offensive. Oh, well, they had him all jacked up on cocaine, and well, they said cocaine's at the White House, and is he on some substance? And they told him he needs to submit to a drug test before the debate, and blah blah blah. And in lockstep, when you watch these talking head shows, and they would have these pundits come on and these politicians come on, to a person they followed the script. He's juiced up, he's jacked up, drug test. He's juiced up, he's jacked up, drug test. And then last night happened. And unlike the State of the Union address, this actually was a caricature of President Biden present on the stage. Even the way he shuffled out onto the stage, I was saying to myself, oh, no, Joe, say it ain't so. And when he started talking, I thought he just needed to clear his throat. And I was pleading somebody, as if somebody could hear me. I'm pleading to the television, get this man a drink of water, please. You are setting him up to be exactly what people are saying to the negative. Get him a drink of water. Let him clear his throat. Joe, you got to go in. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. And at one point, former President Trump, after President Biden went down one of these rabbit holes, said, I don't understand what he said. I don't even think he understands what he just said. It was a dumpster fire, especially for the Democrats. From a Republican standpoint, no, he didn't look as bad as President Biden, and they're only a few years apart. But in terms of voters who haven't made their minds up, people that are waiting with a D in the middle to see what they're going to do. He didn't answer any of the questions that needed to be answered. I mean, obviously, he looked sharper than President Biden last night, which unfortunately was a low bar. And that kind of showed itself when they got to the part about the golf score. Yeah, what do you say when people say you're too old for the job? And President Biden's like, judge me according to what I've done in the past. And unfortunately, as President Biden is answering the question, I'm saying to myself, poor Joe, you've already kind of answered the question by your mere presence. And so it was a moot question from the door, but he answers it, judge me by what I've done in the past. And then they go over to President or former President Trump, and he's talking about, some cognitive tests. He always talks about the cognitive tests, the cognitive tests. And, I've taken them, I've aced them, as you know. And then he talks about his golf tournament that he won and, all of that. And then they go back and forth about their golf scores. And President Biden talks about he got his handicap down to 6. Former president, I don't believe, it's lies. And then they talk about, and then President Biden is saying, I challenge you, I would have a driving contest with you anytime, and I challenge you to a golf game, but you got to carry your own bag. I'm like, what in the hell is going on here? This was like a scene from Cocoon with two people arguing over the pudding in the cafeteria. I don't say that to be facetious. This was heartbreaking to watch. The questions about January 6th, which I still believe someone has to press him to answer to that. I don't care if you're a Trump supporter and you're listening to this. I know that you're making excuses for him. I happen to know a couple of you personally. I don't care what in the hell you say. That needs to be addressed. Single largest act of treason in this country since the Civil War. And you had a president, a sitting president, egg this thing on. They were threatening to hang his then Vice President Mike Pence from the gallows. You know the story. This is why I did that episode on Are We Witnessing the Fall of America? Because people have just thrown common sense out of the window. I don't care if you are a D, an R, or an I for independent. That January 6th situation has to be dealt with. We didn't get into that. They asked some questions about the environment. You know, we have the best water ever. That's not answering the question. You know, immigration, crime, these are the economy, these are the areas that he leaned into, and he was following his own script. But if you're an undecided voter, you didn't get anything of value from former President Trump at all. Now, to his credit, a low bar credit, multiple times, President Biden tried to draw him out. And I'm not mad at that strategy. History says this guy can't control his temper. History dictates that this guy is a loose cannon oftentimes, especially when they put a microphone in front of his face. History dictates that he too goes down rabbit holes sometimes, and you don't know where in the world we're going. And so President Biden tried to bait him a couple of times. He talked about suckers and losers, the comments about the military. And then he said, you're the sucker. You're the loser. My son's not a sucker and loser. And he tried to bait former President Trump in. Trump didn't bite it. I'm like, okay, he's trying to stay on message. He brought up the porn actress thing. Okay, he's trying to stay on message. He brought up felonies. And you can see Trump kind of wince when he brought up felonies. Like, you can tell that title just bothers him. Like, damn, this felon thing. But it is a jury of your peers stuck those 34 titles on you. So you can't be mad at Joe, but in any event, he didn't pull him out of character per se the way you thought. I think that Trump's biggest faux pas was going down this rabbit hole about, you know, the golf and the pivoting and not really answering any questions, especially with January 6th. That's who he's proven himself to be up until now. You know, he has already made these January 6th prisoners. He's already made them out to be patriots, at least to his base. He's already made it clear he's looking to pardon, you know, some people when it's all said and done. He's also made it clear that he views them as political hostages. And these are the things that I said as an American, these are troubling statements. The leader of the free world, the leader of the United States, cannot have a lukewarm or even approving attitude of people who openly and violently flex against the government. That's got to be dealt with. But you heard the opinions of people for the debate. And now the RNC convention, which I believe is in Chicago, that thing has brand new stakes attached to it. Ooh, they got to make some decisions before that convention. Now, I've been hearing some rumblings. I won't say from who. You know, with some of the things that we do in community, there's connections, a lot of connections to Harrisburg. There's some connections to D.C. You know, not a ton, but I do have some connections that run in those circles. And I have been hearing rumblings leading up to this debate about a change in direction at the national convention, and maybe even with the approval of President Biden. Maybe. Now, these are all rumors. And I wouldn't throw it out there other than the fact that I feel like what we watched last night is setting us up for something. It has to. I don't know. I want to put this in context, right? I don't know exactly what the options are. And because, like so many other situations with this president and the past president, where there's so many uncharted waters that we are now swimming in. You know, as Americans, we've gotten used to so many different dynamics when it comes to politics, but a new norm has been introduced at every single turn when it comes to the last couple of presidential elections and the last couple of presidential cycles. You know, I think one of the positives is we've gotten overly accustomed to the BS when it comes to politicians, DR and I, especially Ds and Rs. And I think that this is a come to Jesus moment for everybody, not just the presidential candidates, not just for Congress, for the judicial system, certainly with everything we're seeing with the Supreme Court, and then this digital and personal civil war that's already is starting to transpire and bubble up, with the constituency, is just the role of government. What government do we want? What are we willing to fight for? All of this stuff. This is America's come to Jesus moment. Go back to that episode. I know Chuck loves and hates what I say. Are we witnessing the fall of America? President Trump said in a soundbite that the election was stolen before. We know they'll try to steal it again. I'm paraphrasing. I have to pull it and play it for you guys sometimes. The next time we do this, after these next 4 years, the election will look a whole lot different. We're going to take care of that. It's going to look a whole lot different. And I'm like, okay, are you guys picking up what he's putting down? Are you catching what he's throwing? He wants to pull a Vladimir Putin. He wants to be in there for 10, 15, 20 years if he lives to see it. I hope you all see what's going on. But next week's show, I want to bring on some educators who focus on the political landscape and who teach at a college level on the political landscape locally, and who concentrate also on politics from a foreign affairs perspective. And I want to talk about the options and what could happen, the unprecedented nature of all of this, pull on some historic examples. Maybe the only one we have is Lyndon Baines Johnson, who had health issues and decided, it's time for me to step away. Whatever the situation is, we want to put this moment in context. I enjoy having open discussion about it as I'm doing now, but because there are so many stakes involved, and again, this is something that we haven't seen, and obviously something that we as a nation are going to have to face. I want real context to the discussion so that we can kind of chew on some things. So we'll bring those professionals on. I'll be joined by Chuck and maybe even Mark for that one, so that we can have some robust discussion around that. And so stay tuned. This is kind of a precursor to that. But the conversation that I want to lean into for the rest of our time together, and we saw this coming, ladies and gentlemen, is this.
With the 55th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Los Angeles Lakers select Bronny James from the University of Southern California.
That's right. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Listen, you got to give credit where credit is due to the power of LeBron James. You got to give him credit. This man is the lead scorer of all time in the NBA. Let me backtrack a little bit. He came out and was labeled the chosen one by Sports Illustrated, a cover issue, the chosen one. And I don't know if you guys remember back in the day, a gentleman by the name of Felipe Lopez, who was also featured on that Sports Illustrated cover. And he was supposed to be the next big thing. It didn't pan out that way. He went to the league, it didn't last long. LeBron was surrounded by so much hype. And ladies and gentlemen, I have to tell you, he lived up to every ounce of it. And that is no small feat. I got to give credit where credit is due. And I know there's a huge debate about who's the GOAT. Is it him or is it Michael Jordan? That's all irrelevant. You'll never win that argument. Jordan fans, as I am, are all in the Jordan camp when it comes to he's the greatest thing we've ever seen on the court. I'm one of those guys. I'm also a person who recognizes LeBron for who he is. And so LeBron lived up to the hype, has done phenomenal things at a pro level, has done phenomenal things academically for students in his hometown with Akron's Promise. Let me give you an example of that. I just brought my daughter back from registration couple of days at Kent State University, right? She starts there in the fall. And you had all of these different kids that were guides for the day, great kids, about 11 of them or so. And each one was in charge of different groups, taking them to different classes and majors and parts of campus, little tour guides. And they introduced themselves one by one by one. And one young lady grabbed the microphone and she introduced herself, and all of them gave a fun fact. And her fun fact was, LeBron James is paying for my tuition here. And people applauded, rightfully so. LeBron has been that guy when it comes to not just the basketball court, but his community, his local community. He has been an advocate for issues affecting African Americans. He has been a social justice warrior. Some of you may not like the way he does it. You had the one reported, shut up and dribble. He dealt with that, so I won't go into it, right? Last but not least, despite all the speculations about what he may or may not be doing outside of his marriage, LeBron James, much like Kobe was from a family perspective, LeBron James is arguably one of the best family men we've seen for athletes at this level, this caliber. Now, we know that some people are more private, and I'm going to factor that in there. And just because somebody's private doesn't mean they aren't good parents. That's not what I'm saying. But LeBron has been the anti-stereotype. Yes, I'm going there. As a father and as a black father, especially. LeBron dotes on his children. He and his wife are obviously partners in this thing, not just husband and wife in title and name only. And when it comes to his sons and his daughters' activities, you know, we've watched him sideline at basketball games. We've watched him do some coaching. We've watched him giving tips. He is in it. He's that dad. And you got to give credit where credit is due. And to see him doing and orchestrating, which he made no bones about it. What are your goals? I want to play long enough to play with my son. And whoever drafts my son gets me as well. And money's not the issue at that point. Money's not the object. He did not throw a rock and hide his hand. He said, this is what I'm doing. The fact that he had enough power to orchestrate his partner becoming the coach, J.J. Redick, of the premier basketball team in the NBA, the Los Angeles Lakers, one of the two most storied programs in NBA history. He gets his partner that gig, and I know they're saying that it wasn't LeBron's doing. Come on, man. Redick had nothing on his resume, yet that was orchestrated, and lo and behold, with the 55th pick, you heard the announcement. First time in NBA history that a father and son will be playing on the same team, and it speaks volumes to the power, the sheer gravitas, the gravitational pull of the LeBron James universe. And here's the part that some of you don't want to hear. On various levels in communities all throughout this country, to include this one right here, do you know how many or underqualified people I've worked with, for, and around because their parent either owned or had some pull with that particular organization, business, or company? Do you know how many children of executives and established folk work within all of the top tier jobs around us right now in Erie and abroad? Dare I say, especially when you factor in the white male factor, do you know how many subpar white men are mega millionaires right now or run things because of who their parent is? Is LeBron James doing anything that's so unusual? Is LeBron James doing anything that you and I wouldn't do for our children if given the opportunity? I've got my partner, Matt Harris, and he wasn't able to make it today. He's got a couple of things going on, and I just want to share some of his story because I remember once upon a time, you know, he obviously was a standout at Strong Vincent. I was a freshman and he was a junior. And we go to the state title, we as a school, we go to the state title, we win the state title against Nanticoke. Matt is the starting guard. You know, he was one of our big dogs, you know, on the basketball court back then. We both bleed black and red. I'm SV for life. And when we got older and his son played for a different high school, Cathedral Prep, it was like, okay, it's kind of par for the course. I mean, unfortunately, there's a lot of people going that direction. I'm one of them. But when I saw him coaching for Cathedral Prep, I told him jokingly, I said, man, I felt betrayed to see you in a prep pullover coaching for Cathedral Prep. an SV basketball hero. It just stung. But Matt was doing what was best for his son. My son is 10 years old and plays travel sports, travel basketball, travel baseball, travel football. Every single one of those teams, the head coach has a son on that team. I am my son's junior high school basketball coach. I threw my hat into the arena because I knew my son was coming. I'm watching a documentary on Pete Maravich. Pete Maravich goes to LSU, and guess where his dad was going to coach? LSU. And so Pete Maravich goes to play with his dad. And for you basketball novices out there, the same Pete Maravich, who was the former leading all-time scorer for college basketball, men's college basketball, well, all of college basketball really, and it's the same Pete Maravich whose scoring record was broken by Caitlin Clark. That Pete Maravich went to LSU to play with his father. You've watched coaches coach their kids on one level and then follow them to the next level if they're able. Look at what Deion Sanders is doing. When he showed up at Colorado, he told those kids, meet your quarterback, Shador. There's no, he's going to work for the quarterback. Meet your quarterback. Why? Deion's one of the greatest that ever did it. Prime time. They moved heaven and earth to bring him to Colorado. Do you really think I got that much pull and my son's the quarterback? You don't think I'm bringing him to be the quarterback of this big time program? Are you smoking? LeBron James did what I believe, strictly my opinion, any and every father that supports their child athletically. And for a lot of us whose kids are in sports, we do. We coach, we sponsor, we drive the camps, we do whatever it takes. And I think this is one of those situations where, to be fair, he's doing something that I can't even give it a percentage, 99.99999. I mean, the chances of you being in a position to do this, you got a better shot of getting struck by lightning 18 times today than to even be in a position to do this. The fact that he's had the longevity that he's had, and the fact that his son even wanted to play basketball, because Magic Johnson had two sons, that's not the route that they went. The tallest son, is one of our transgenders. He doesn't even want to play basketball. So there's so many factors that come into play. But the fact that it all came together and he's like, I can completely pull this off. I'm doing it. Who wouldn't? Now, for the NBA players or the nepotism, blah, 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 really look at ownership throughout pro sports. Look at the children of some of these owners. You want to talk about nepotism? Come on, man. If you're listening to this broadcast in Atlanta, in Charlotte, in Erie, I don't care what city you're in, nepotism, look around your city. You can probably name 5 to 10 people off the top of your head that's got a job that they are not that great at, that they got because their parents had enough juice to pull it off. And you know it. I remember when people used to criticize Kobe Bryant, because, he's trying to act like Jordan. I can't stand that. And newsflash, I used to be one of them. But I had a cousin named Rick Joyce that checked me on that one time. He was like, dog, they got the Gatorade commercials like Mike. If I could be like Mike. He said, we all want to be Jordan. Don't be mad because he actually pulling it off. And I had to sit in that for a second. I said, you know what? He is absolutely right. Who doesn't want to be like Jordan? They had a whole marketing campaign around it. He was so right. And we're mad because this young man had the same goal as the rest of us, and he actually had the circumstances, talent, and skill level to pull it off. And he did. So I look at this whole transaction, and all I can say is, bravo. Now, the other part about that is this, and I'll end it at this. People talk about who did and didn't want him. I just watched a documentary about the GOAT in football, your hero, Tom Brady, 6th rounder, There's a whole lot of folk who said, I don't want him. I don't see it. And he came in with that chip on his shoulder. And as they say, the rest is history. Now, I'm not saying Bronny is going to be that. I'm also not prepared to say Bronny won't be that. I mean, there's a such thing as father surpassing son. I used to watch Dell Curry play basketball back in the day. Father of Steph Curry. And I was listening to Rex Chapman, old Kentucky standout, goes to the NBA, played several years there. Rex Chapman and Dell Curry were very good friends. And Rex Chapman tells a story that I thought was real funny and clever about it was him and Dell Curry and another player from the NBA in the room, and Dell was holding Steph. And he said, we're all talking about basketball and who was better than who. And what we didn't know was the damn toddler sitting among us was the baddest one out of all of us. Dell Curry had a great career. It does not touch Steph Curry's career. And so I'm not dismissing the possibility of maybe not surpassing his father's accomplishments, but him becoming something of great significance. The work ethic is there, and he certainly has the right team around him. But in terms of what raw material he's working with right now, the kid has stuff to work with. There's a foundation there. He got an early head start because of his father. But as I've already articulated, I'm not hating on that. I understand why. Because kids all over America are getting a boost because daddy got money. Mama got a name for herself. Mom and daddy both got money and pedigree. And so LeBron's doing what America is very good at, giving kids who aren't necessarily qualified at the moment a leg up because of who their parents are. But this kid actually has good stuff going on. And how good he will or won't be, I genuinely believe is up to him. And I think he'll go for it and he'll work for it. And in the end, not prepared to say how good he will be. What I'm very confident about is that he will be better than I believe anyways, that he'll be better than I believe most people believe or are willing to give him credit of being. So this is a story where we got to just kind of stay tuned and see how it all plays out. All right. Listen, that's it for our show today. You can tune in next time for more discussion and analysis with local and national guests. I want you to remember the next 2.0 streams on Fridays on all major podcast platforms and the fourth Sunday of the month at 4 p.m. on WQLN PBS NPR, which is 91.3 FM. Also, don't forget the new feature. You want to leave a message. You got a comment, you got a suggestion for the show, you can now call the next hotline at 814-240-8816. Express yourself, give us your thoughts. We look forward to hearing from you. I'm Marcus Atkinson. Come and join us again so that you can hear about what's next for our communities and our democracy. Peace.